In mid-2021, I moved to a new town for a work opportunity. I didn't have much back then, barely any savings, no car, and not even a proper bed. So I went with the cheapest apartment I could find, a small one-bedroom unit on the second floor of this rundown complex with only 3 units in total. The place was old, like really old, rusted railings, peeling paint, yellow tinted windows, and to make things worse, I was the only one living there. The other 2 units were completely vacant. I'll be honest, that part made me feel a little uneasy. The halls were always silent, lights would flicker in the stairwell, and it didn't feel like a place anyone would really want to live. But I kept telling myself it was just temporary, just until I could save enough money from the new job to move somewhere better. Work, unfortunately, turned out to be hell. Long hours, brutal overtime, and a boss who made every day feel like a punishment. I barely had time to eat dinner or think, let alone socialize. Most nights, I just came home to sleep. One night, I got back to my place around 9:30 p.m., totally drained. As soon as I stepped in, I kicked off my shoes and headed toward my room. When there was an unexpected knock at the door, I froze. I hadn't seen anyone around when I came in. No cars in the lot, no lights on in any of the other units. This place was always empty. Confused, I walked back over and peeked through the peephole. But I couldn't see a thing. Either the glass was cracked or permanently fogged. I never really figured it out. So I opened the door. Standing uncomfortably close to the entrance was a man. Maybe late 40s, early 50s, dark hair, stubbled face, and these weirdly intense eyes, like the kind you can't look into without feeling your stomach turn. He didn't say anything at first, just stood there. So I asked, "Can I help you?" He blinked, then opened his eyes a little wider and asked if I lived there. I thought that was a weird question, but I just said, "Yeah." That's when he grinned, not friendly, not warm, just off, and told me he was moving into the unit right next to mine. Said he just wanted to introduce himself. Then, without even giving me his name, he gave this awkward little wave and walked off into the unit next door. No furniture, no bags, no lights turned on. He just went in and closed the door behind him. I didn't think too much about it at the time. If anything, I felt slightly better knowing someone else had finally moved in, even if he was a little odd. That night, I had dinner and went to bed early. The next evening was almost a carbon copy. I got home around the same time. But this time, as I was climbing the stairs, I saw something that made me slow down. The blinds in the window of the unit next to mine moved. Not like a breeze or from closing a door. They swayed as if someone was standing right there, pulling them aside just slightly to watch me. I hurried up the stairs and went inside, locking the door behind me. I told myself not to be paranoid. But not even 30 seconds later, there was a knock. I already knew who it was. I looked out the peephole again, still useless. So I opened the door. And yet, same guy, same smile, standing in the exact same position. I tried to play it casual. "Hey, is there something you need? I'm kind of in a rush tonight." He didn't respond right away. Just smiled, then asked, "Would you happen to know how the thermostat works in these units?" I must be too old to figure it out. I gave a little half laugh and explained the buttons. It was literally 2 switches and a dial. But then he asked if I could come show him. I told him again that I was in a hurry, and he gave this weirdly passive-aggressive shrug. Come on, 30 seconds. I just can't get it to work. I hesitated. It was cold that week, and if he really couldn't turn the heat on, I'd feel kinda guilty. So I said, okay, sure. He turned and walked toward his unit, and as I followed behind, I noticed the door was already open. That's when everything shifted. The moment I stepped into the doorway, I froze. The unit was completely empty. No couch, no boxes, no lights. Just a stained carpet, paint peeling from the walls, and a putrid, rotting smell lingering in the air. No one was moving into this place. No one had ever moved into this place. This unit hadn't been rented. It had been abandoned. I didn't step any further. I just stood in the doorway, feeling my legs tense up. He turned around. Come on, it's just right here, he said, but his voice had changed. It wasn't friendly anymore. His face dropped the fake smile. His eyes were dark now, unblinking. I muttered something about forgetting to turn off my stove and backed away. He took a step toward me, aggressively, but I spun around and sprinted back to my door. I got inside and slammed the lock shut just as I heard my handle jiggle behind me. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. As I spoke to the dispatcher, I could hear him on the other side of the door, knocking softly, almost playfully. Hey, he said. What's wrong? I just needed your help. Then silence. By the time the cops showed up, he was gone. The officers told me what I already suspected. That unit was vacant, no record of a rental, no application submitted. He had broken in and squatted there, probably for days, just watching me. He knew my schedule. He waited for the right moment. And I'm almost sure if I had stepped further into that room, I wouldn't be telling this story. I moved out by the end of that week. It was a pretty normal Saturday night for me. I lived alone in a small house in the suburbs, but I worked an hour away in the city. After a long week, I was more than ready to just do nothing. No plans, no calls, no noise. Just me, some video games, and a few beers. I took a quick shower, threw on some sweats, and booted up the PlayStation. After a few matches online, I cracked open a beer and just relaxed. At some point, I got hungry and figured I'd treat myself. So I ordered pizza from a small local shop nearby. Just placed the order through their app, kicked back on the couch, and threw on YouTube while I waited. After about 30 minutes, I realized it had been a while since I placed the order. And I still hadn't gotten any text that it was on the way. So I pulled out my phone, checked the app, and saw this generic message. Sorry for the delay, your order will be on the way soon. No big deal. I was trying to stay up late anyway, and honestly, I could already feel my eyes getting heavy. Maybe I was more tired than I realized. Eventually, I dozed off on the couch, the TV still playing in the background. I have no idea how long I was out, but I woke up suddenly to the sound of the doorbell ringing. Multiple times. I sat up fast, still groggy. My first thought was, oh, the pizza delivery. I didn't even check the time. Just stumbled over to the door and opened it. Standing on my porch was a man around 30s, maybe early 40s, wearing dark jeans and a gray hoodie with a hood up. His hands were in his pockets, and he had this blank expression on his face. Sorry, hope you weren't waiting long, I said through a yawn. How much do I owe you? The guy just stared at me. So I clarified, for the pizza. What do I owe you? That's when I noticed something was off. He wasn't holding anything. No pizza box, no receipt, not even a delivery bag. No uniform either, just that hoodie. He paused for a second, then smiled, but it wasn't warm. "Don't worry," he said. "The pizzas are still on the way." Then he stopped talking, just stood there, staring. Even in my half-drunk, half-asleep state, I knew something was wrong. Why would someone come to my door if the pizza wasn't ready yet? But I was too tired to deal with it. So I just muttered, "Okay," and slowly shut the door. I went back to the couch, still trying to make sense of how weird that was. Was I just overthinking it? Maybe I was too out of it to read the situation clearly. I put on another video, laid back down, and fell asleep again. This time, I was only out for a few minutes before something woke me up. A clicking sound, soft, but enough to snap me out of sleep. I sat up and listened. No doorbell, no knock, just silence. Confused, I picked up my phone to check the time and froze. It was 3 a.m. I placed that pizza order at 10:30 p.m. and I knew the shop closed at 1 a.m. There was no way a delivery guy was just now showing up. I quickly opened the app. It said the order had been delayed, then canceled. So, who was at my door? I stood up, walked toward the front of the house, and peeked out the peephole. No one. I unlocked the door, thinking maybe the guy had come back or was still waiting. But when I opened it, no one was there. The porch was empty. The neighborhood was dead quiet. That's when something hit me like a punch to the chest. The door was already unlocked. I must have forgotten to lock it earlier when that guy came. I was so out of it, I hadn't even thought about it. And then it clicked, literally. That sound that woke me up? It wasn't random. It was the sound of the door being shut. I stopped in my tracks, staring out at the quiet night, and replayed everything in my head. The guy's weird behavior, his response about the pizza, how he just went along with the story I fed him. He wasn't a delivery driver. He just played along after I assumed he was. I backed away from the door slowly, looking over my shoulder into the dark hallway behind me. Every part of me was screaming to get out of the house. That's when I heard movement. In the next room. I didn't wait. I sprinted down the hall, grabbed my phone from the couch, and bolted outside barefoot. Didn't stop running until I was at the end of the block. I called 911, barely able to explain what happened. The cops arrived a few minutes later, but the guy was long gone. I told them everything, his appearance, what he said, what time he came, how I found the door unlocked. But honestly, it didn't lead to much. There were no signs of forced entry. Whoever he was, he used my own forgetfulness against me. To this day, I don't know what his real plan was. Was he just looking for an easy house to rob? Or something worse? I sometimes wonder if he was waiting outside, just listening, waiting to hear whether I locked the door or not. Had I not woken up when I did, I think that night might have gone very differently. I live in a single-floor house at the edge of a small town. It's nothing fancy, just a quiet street with only a few homes and a lot of empty space behind us that opens into the woods. My parents both work night shifts, and since I'm 17, they've let me stay home alone most nights. It wasn't something that ever bothered me until last winter. It was early January, and we had just come back from spending New Year's out of state. The first day back, my parents returned to work, and I had the house to myself again. It was freezing outside, and the air had that deep, dry silence that only winter nights seem to have. Everything just felt still. That night, I was curled up on the couch watching something on Netflix. I had the lights low, a blanket around me, and the heater running. Around 11 p.m., I paused the TV to grab a snack from the kitchen, and as I passed the hallway, I caught a glimpse of something that made me stop cold. One of the bedroom doors was open. Now, that might not sound weird, but I had closed every door before settling in for the night. It's a habit of mine. I hate seeing open doors at night. I think it stems from some childhood fear of something watching me from the darkness. I didn't hear anything, but I just stared at that room, frozen for a while. Eventually, I convinced myself that maybe I had just forgotten to close it. I walked over, shut it firmly, and went back to the couch. But something felt off. I tried to keep watching the show, but I kept glancing back toward the hallway. Finally, I decided I'd just do a full sweep of the house, just for peace of mind. Every room, every corner, even the closets. Nothing. No open windows, no signs of anything weird. I even checked the door locks. Everything was fine, but the uneasiness stayed. Fast forward an hour. I had just finished brushing my teeth and was about to head to my bedroom when I heard a small click sound coming from the living room. It was faint, like a metallic tap, but it was enough to make me pause. I stood in the hallway listening. Then it happened again. A slow tap, 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 like something lightly tapping glass. It was coming from the window by the back door. I walked over, cautiously, and turned on the porch light. Nothing. The yard was empty, and the trees beyond the fence were still. But then, as I reached for the curtain to peek out, something moved. Just a flicker. Something pulling back into the darkness right outside the edge of the light. I jumped back. I didn't know if it was an animal or someone actually there, but I backed away and locked the deadbolt just to be safe. Then I noticed something that made my stomach drop. The lock on the window next to the back door was unlatched. I know I locked every window when we got home that weekend. I double-checked the house the first night my parents left. My heart started racing. I slid the lock into place and closed the blinds. I couldn't see anything anymore, but that somehow made it worse. I turned off all the lights and went to my bedroom. I locked that door too, something I rarely did, and sat on the bed with the covers pulled up and the TV on low. Then, it happened again. The tapping. But this time, it wasn't at the back of the house. It was at my bedroom window. 3 slow, spaced out taps. I froze. I live on the ground floor, so it wouldn't be hard for someone to walk up to my window, but my blinds were down. I couldn't see anything. I just stared at the window like it might move. Then I heard the doorknob. My bedroom doorknob. Not fast, not aggressive, but slow. Someone was trying it softly, testing if it was locked. I didn't move a muscle. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it was shaking my whole chest. I grabbed my phone and called the police. I whispered everything to the operator, not wanting whoever was outside to hear. About 5 minutes into the call, I heard footsteps inside the house. They moved slowly from the hallway toward the living room, then stopped. Silence. The dispatcher told me to stay put. Officers were already on the way. But those next few minutes felt like hours. Then came the sound that almost made me scream: the closet door in the hall creaking open. I didn't hear anything after that, just the occasional creak of wood as if someone was shifting their weight. Finally, red and blue lights lit up the front yard. A knock at the door. Police. They came in, searched the house, and found nothing. Every door and window was locked, including the one I had seen unlatched earlier. No signs of forced entry, but they did find something. On the window outside my bedroom were 3 long smudges, oily fingerprints, and under the window, fresh shoe prints in the snow. But they stopped right there. No tracks leading to them, and no tracks leading away. The officers told me maybe they got spooked when I turned on the porch light. But that doesn't explain the sounds inside the house. I stayed at my friend's place the next few nights. My parents added cameras, and we never had another incident after that. But I still wonder, what if they never left? What if they were already inside,